They aren't your average run-of-the-mill eclair. They are filled with a chocolate cream filling and they are super yummy. And then to transform these eclairs into a Christmas treat, they look so gorgeous.
My name's Taryn and I'm a professional baker from South Africa. I've baked some crazy, weird and wonderful cakes in my time. And now I hope to pass those skills on to you as I bake, make and create with the Supermoms Club.
I am so excited. It is November and that means for the next couple of weeks I get to share with you all of my favorite festive bakes. Now today we are going to be making some chocolate eclairs. They aren't your average run-of-the-mill eclair. They are filled with a chocolate cream filling and they are super yummy. I've been so inspired this week. Everybody in the Northern Hemisphere has started with their Christmas decorations. We kind of hold off in South Africa until our kids go on their summer break at the beginning of December. But in my newsfeed, I have seen these beautiful hot chocolate stations and I thought, what better treat than to have some chocolate eclairs with that. Now, when I developed this recipe, I wanted something that was easy for you to make at home, so I really do challenge you to make this recipe. What we'll do is start with the eclair recipe and then a little later in the video we'll get into the chocolate cream filling. So for the eclairs you will need 300 ml of boiling water, a pinch of salt, 120 grams of butter, 120 grams of flour, which is just short of a cup, and 3 eggs. A lot of this recipe is done on the stove top, but the eclairs go kind of quickly, so you can start by putting your oven onto 180 degrees Celsius or 360 Fahrenheit, and then you can put your water into a pot. Now, I kind of reserve about 20 ml of the water. It just is really dependent on your egg size as to how much water you are going to need. So you'll see by the consistency a little bit later on in the video, and then you can always add just that little bit of extra water if you need to. So you're going to place this onto the stove on a medium heat and then add the butter and the salt and let that kind of simmer away until the butter is completely melted. And then you can add your flour and slowly whisk it in and turn your heat down to low and let it simmer for around 2 to 3 minutes. So next we are going to be adding in the eggs, and we really don't want these eggs to scramble as they go in. So you want your mixture kind of cool enough that that's not going to happen. As you add the eggs, you'll notice that your mixture becomes more and more creamy, and you want to beat it until there are no lumps inside it. And if you find that it's a little doughy, you can add that remaining 20 ml of water. And then you can prep your baking sheet and get the mixture straight into a piping bag. So all I'm going to do is just pop some parchment down and then grease the top of it with some butter. And now to pipe the eclairs, you are going to need obviously a piping bag and then a nice big star tip. So the one I'm using has got 8 teeth, and ideally you want something with a lot of teeth because it does help them when they're baking that they have this kind of room to grow as they expand in the oven. If you don't have a piping tip, that's not a problem. You can use a zippy bag and then just run a fork over the top of them to create those little lines. So now I'll fill the bag with about half of the mixture, squeeze out any air bubbles and twist the back of the bag to create some pressure. And then what you want to do when you are piping these is hold your bag at a 90-degree angle and then pipe a little line that is about 5 centimeters long. Then use the back end of a teaspoon to neaten up your edges and pop them into the oven, into the shelf that is just under your center shelf. And they are going to bake for around 35 minutes. It really does depend on how thick you've piped them. Sometimes they can take a bit quicker, other times a bit longer. So start checking on them from 30 minutes onwards. Once they are nice and golden, then they can come out. While the eclairs are baking in the oven, we can get on to making our chocolate cream filling. Now, the full recipe is in the description. You can click on there. There's a link that goes through to my site and a print-friendly version of the recipe. So for the chocolate cream filling, you'll need 200 ml of milk, 1 teaspoon of butter, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3 egg yolks, a half a 385 gram tin of condensed milk, a quarter cup of cocoa powder, 20 ml of maizena or corn flour, and 25 ml of whipping cream. Now we are back onto the stove again with making this. So what you're going to do is start by adding your milk into a pot, and then you can add the sugar and the butter and put it onto medium heat on the stove top. And then give it a stir until your sugar has dissolved. So while that is on the stove and heating up, what we are going to do is continue our prep with the rest of the ingredients because these are going to be thrown into that pot. So what you can start by doing is beating your egg yolks and then add the condensed milk, beat it for around 10 seconds, just until combined, and then add the cocoa and the cornstarch and beat until it's smooth. My milk has just started to simmer on the stove, and now I'm going to add this mixture into the pot and then whisk it in and turn the heat down to low. Let it kind of just simmer for about a minute or two until it becomes lovely and thick. And then transfer it into a glass bowl and pop it into the freezer to get cold, because we are still going to be adding some whipped cream to it. While that has all been going on, my first batch of éclairs are actually ready to come out the oven. They look so gorgeous. So I'm just going to very gently remove them from the baking sheet and put them onto a wire rack so that they can cool, and I can start piping the next lot that can go into the oven, and then we can get onto whipping the cream and continuing with our chocolate crème. You may feel like you have quite a bit going on in your kitchen, but don't fret, because you can have a really little streamlined production line going. So now what I'm going to do is just add a nice heaped tablespoon of sugar into my cream and then beat it until it's nice and stiff. So once your cream is beaten, you can grab your chocolate mixture out of your freezer, and then you want to give it a little bit of a beat for about a minute or two. You want it nice and creamy, especially if there are any lumps that have kind of formed and there's a film on top. And then slowly fold your cream into the mixture using a spatula. And now all my little éclairs are baked, and I can pipe the crème into them. Now, of course, these éclairs can be filled with anything you like. So you can fill them with chocolate cream filling, or if you want to go a really easy route, you can use some whipped cream and then fill them with that. Now, what is the perfect éclair? Well, it should be completely hollow in the center, as these are. So what I'm going to do now is put the chocolate crème into my piping bag, and then I'm using just a round tip, and it's probably got a diameter of about 1 centimeter, and then I'm going to show you 2 different ways that these éclairs can be filled, and it's really going to depend on the look that you are wanting for your éclairs. So for the first 8, I am going to put 3 little holes in the bottom of the éclair and then slowly fill them with the chocolate crème filling. And then my next 8, I'm going to slice them in half and then fill the middle of the éclair with the chocolate crème filling. And now the last step is to make the glaze that will go over the top of the éclairs. So I am using 60 ml of whipping cream, a teaspoon of white sugar, and an 80-gram slab of dark chocolate. So all you need to do is just place your cream into a saucepan on a medium heat on the stove, add your sugar, and then give it a stir until it just starts to simmer, and then you can add your chocolate and continue stirring until all your chocolate is melted and the glaze is nice and smooth. Then dip the top of the éclairs into the glaze and place them on a wire rack so that any excess glaze can drip off. And then to transform these éclairs into a Christmas treat, I'm melting some white chocolate, colouring half of it red, and then drizzling white and red chocolate over the top. So a fair amount of work to get these Christmas chocolate éclairs done, but totally worth it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we are going to be making the cutest little Christmas cookies you have ever seen. Until then, take care and God bless.